Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna take a look at the team that got me to Legend for this season in Go Battle League in the Great League Remix Cup with Cresselia, Lickitung and Diggersby. I know what some of you are thinking, this team is disgustingly bulky, and you would be absolutely correct. What an absolute tryhard team. I know, that is exactly what we're going for. This is a classic APB team with Cresselia, which is good against fighting, and then two Pokemon that are weak to fighting in the back. I used Lickitung as the safe swap. You can also replace Lickitung for like an Alolan Sandslash or something, and then use Diggersby as the safe swap. Diggersby with one quick attack advantage does so well in the Zero Shields in this meta, so I think it might actually be better as a safe swap, but I used Lickitung and it worked pretty well. Just want to touch on the movesets as well. I think grass coverage on Cresselia is very nice. Grass coverage in general is just very nice, so I really like it for Carbink, Mud Boys and so on. And Moonblast is absolutely mandatory when you're using Lickitung in the back because you need to have good to decent matchups against the dark types with Cresselia. I'm also using quick attack on Diggersby. It just picks up more matchups according to PvPoke, and also it makes it better against the flying types like Charizard, Golbat, even Dragonite, Mandibuzz, stuff like that, which is very huge when you're using Cresselia in the lead. I think this is a very good call, Cresselia and Diggersby. Also, quick attack gives Diggersby an ability to farm things down, which came in clutch a lot of the time, so I really think it is the better moveset for Diggersby. Overall, very good team. I gained a little bit of elo, quite a lot of elo. Let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, we lead into the Carbink. There it is. This is the only Carbink I saw, but this is a good matchup for Cresselia. Also a good reason to run this core. If you're seeing a lot of Carbinks, Cresselia and Diggersby both do very well against Carbink. Diggersby a little bit better because Carbink with energy can be a problem for Cresselia. But 3 Grass Nuts should be enough to take out this Carbink, as it takes 9 Rock Throws to get to the Rock Slide and 12 to the Moonblast, so they do make it to the Moonblast. And then they get the attack drop, which is very crucial in this matchup, because now 3 Grass Nuts is no longer enough to take it out, as you can see by this damage. So that's very unfortunate, but very fortunately, my opponent decides to swap out into a Decidueye, which we can just respond to with a Lickitung, and this is a very good matchup. Decidueye can learn the Energy Ball and Brave Bird, so they can hit back at the Lickitung, but they go for the Shadow Sneak bait. I'm not really sure about baiting a Lickitung, but then they load up to the Brave Bird, which is not enough to take out from this range, so we can just no-shield it, and then because they offloaded all of their energy and they are defense drop, we can farm them all the way down and come out with a lot of energy on Lickitung. Once again, grass coverage is just generally very nice in this meta, because it means we can take out the Carbink and even get to a Body Slam on this whole Lucia that comes in. Very spicy team by my opponent. I don't really see a point in getting farmed down here, so just bring in the Diggersby, and once again, this is another matchup where quick attack is just very nice because it puts it into a range where we only have to go for 1 Fire Punch in order to take it out. We can go for the first Fire Punch and then make it to another Fire Punch. We have a move loaded on Cresselia, so as long as we save 1 shield for the Cresselia, we will be able to get off the Moonblast from it. And also, just for science, I want to take this Flying Press. This is a very frail Pokemon, Lucia, and it does big damage with the stab Flying Press against the Diggersby, although Diggersby is very bulky. I take the second one, just a 2-shield flex on my opponent, but we can't get off the Moonblast because they don't have any more moves loaded. And this Moonblast is of course gonna take out the Holucia, and we get the 2-shield flex in the first game. That is a good game. Next game, lead into a Clefable. Decent lead for Cresselia, not the best. Very good lead when they're just standing still, but we are letting them catch up when we see that they get back into it. I think we got 3, so we gave them back 3. I think that was fair. They did, I think, 5 Fairy Winds before swapping into Lickitung. We don't have a very good response to this, so we go for the Moonblast and then bring in Lickitung before they get to a Body Slam. This way they will only be able to outpace to the first one, but not to the second one, so we will be able to outpace after this to the Body Slams. They go for another Body Slam, I think, as they got to it. I generally just like to overfarm as much as possible in matchups like these, because it's so difficult to keep track of energy against one-turn moves, especially when you're using a one-turn move yourself. So I just want to make it as difficult as possible for my opponent to keep track as we go for this Body Slam on the Lickitung. And based on how much damage this does, I'm looking at it, I don't think another Body Slam is enough. And the Power Whip does about 5% more, so I do go for the Power Whip, hoping it's enough to take out the Lickitung, but it barely isn't, and they get to another move, so I have to either shield or let my Lickitung go. I know it's a Clefable in the lead, and both my back 2 Pokemon have okay matchups against Clefable, so I don't really care too much about Switch, but I should have cared about Switch because it's a Shadow Claw, a Lowland Sandslash in the back, which is really not nice for Cresselia to see. Go for the first Moonblast. I'm staying in to hopefully make them think that, like, Cresselia is putting them kind of low with this next Moonblast, and I'm staying in with a Cresselia. This is odd. Maybe I'm very weak to a Lowland Sandslash in the back. I should probably shield, is what the opponent might be thinking, which is why I stayed in. And we did grab the shield, we also grabbed the attack drop, which is very nice with the Moonblast. And I don't want to shield the attack dropped Ice Punch, I want to shield the non-attack dropped Ice Punches later on, because I thought those were the ones that did most damage, because I wasn't expecting the Clefable to run Dazzling Gleam. It actually was also wrong, because Ice Punch only does about 38% from a Shadow Lowland Sandslash, whereas a Moonblast does about 40%, so that was actually the move I wanted to shield from the Clefable. But I really wasn't expecting it to be a Dazzling Gleam, which put me very low, meaning now I really don't want to take fast move damage, so I want to take out the Clefable as quickly as possible, so that I'm taking less Fairy Winds, but more Shadow Claws instead, because I can lift this easier with my Diggersby, and now we can get to the Fire Punch on the Shadow Lowland Sandslash. And of course, double super effective. After a little bit of lag, this will take out the Shadow Lowland Sandslash, and that is a good game. Diggersby actually has a quite good matchup against Shadow Lowland Sandslash. Next game, lead into a Vigoroth, very good lead with Cresselia. According to the Sims want you to go straight Grass Knot, but if you have attack on your Cresselia, even if you don't, I think Moonblast is still the correct way to go, because I have a pretty attack weighted Cresselia. 2 Moonblast is enough to take out a Vigoroth. If you have a very good Cresselia up against a very good Vigoroth, they might be able to lift 2 Moonblast and still get to 3 Body Slams, but because I have an attack weighted Cresselia, not on purpose, I just haven't traded for a better one, but because I do, this next Moonblast should be enough to take out the Vigoroth before they get to another Body Slam, and now we can come out with a lot of health remaining on Cresselia. I'm thinking they're probably weak to Cresselia in the back because they stayed in with a Vigoroth against it, so I bring in Lickitung and save my Cresselia for later, although this is a bad matchup for Lickitung against the Mandibuzz because the Licks are resisted. They're running Mandibuzz with Air Slash, meaning it takes 5 for the moves every time, unless they're running Dark Pulse, but most of the time they run Foul Play when they're using Air Slash, so it takes 5 every time for the Foul Plays, or Air Slash, or for the, what's it called, that Aerial Ace, the trash move. Yeah, we do let them get to another one. Once again, I just overfarm as much as possible all the time, just to make it as difficult as possible to keep count. And then I want to offload my energy before they get to a move that can potentially take out my Lickitung, so I don't have to shield my Lickitung, because my Lickitung is a lot less valuable in case they go for the Foul Play here, and I have less energy. If I have more energy, I kind of have to shield it, as we make it to a Body Slam right before they farm us down, which is very nice. Now they have to shield, or let the Mandibuzz go. I don't really see any point in letting my Lickitung just get farmed down, so I save it for later for a potential catch, and then bring in Diggersby. They have a lot of energy on the Mandibuzz, so they can make it 2-2 Foul Plays, but Diggersby is an absolute tank, and so is Mandibuzz, so these don't really do a lot of damage. We might want to shield this if there is fast move pressure in the back, which there is. It's a Wigglytuff. There isn't a lot of fast move pressure in this cup, I don't think, so I thought it was okay to just let the Foul Play go as we go for the Fire Punch bait, which I wasn't sure we could get to 2 Earthquakes. Maybe I should have just gone for it, because I think we probably would have looking back at it. But now we go for another Fire Punch, really thinking that they had to shield at that point. And by landing 1 Fire Punch, we put the Wigglytuff in range, where 1 move from Cresselia would be enough to take it out. And now we can save the Diggersby for later, because the Mandibuzz is very, very low. So the quick attack damage might come in very handy as we go for this Grass Knot right before they get to move, and it doesn't barely take out the Wigglytuff. We want to shield just everything, because the Mandibuzz is not getting to 2 moves anyways, because they offloaded all their energy earlier. So we want to get as much fast move damage as possible, although the Psycho Cuts do nothing. Can Diggersby take it out? Yes, we quick attack down the Mandibuzz with Diggersby, and that is a good game. Next game, lead into a Golbat. Very, very bad lead for Cresselia when you're not running Future Sight. So we swap into Lickitung, and the very unfortunate thing about leading into a Shadow Golbat when you have a bad lead is they can just stay in and Poison Fang your save swap after you swap it in. They bring in a double afterwards, and I think this is a very good play by my opponent to bring in the double. Spoiler alert, it's the Vigoroth in the back. The reason why you want to bring in double and not Vigoroth in this situation, although Vigoroth is a better response to Lickitung, is because double can threaten Cresselia a lot more after it takes out Lickitung, especially if you overfarm perfectly like my opponent did here. and then go for the body slam, because now they come out with a payback. Takes 3 for the body slams, 5 for the payback, so they even have a little bit more than a payback loaded at this point. As they go for it, does about half to Cresselia, and now we can't even overfarm anything on Cresselia, which is just an absolute nightmare situation. Go for the grass knot to take out the double. Now we want to bring in the Diggersby. Quick attack Diggersby has a quite good matchup against Golbat, which is another good reason to run it with the quick attack. They do the exact same thing again. Go for the Poison Fang to debuff our defense, and then they bring in the Vigoroth, and I go for a bait, but I know this game is just over. I want to make sure that my opponent can't get the 2 shield flex, because this is against a fellow YouTuber, what's his name, Nerds Rising that I was facing, and I didn't want him to 2 shield flex against me on his YouTube channel, so do go for this Earthquake just to make sure I can get a shield off of him. Please, don't 2 shield flex on me. We do grab the shield. Now we can top left with good conscience. Nice. That was an absolute nightmare of a team. Of course, there is no way you're beating those types of teams with this team. That is just one of those, yeah, you just can't overcome. Next game, lead into Tapu Fini. Good lead for Cresselia. We want to go up to right before they get to the Moonblast to get this grass knot off before they get a potential debuff with the Moonblast. It takes the equivalent of 10 Psycho Cut for the Moonblast, 7 for the Surfs, and then 6.5 for the following 2 Surfs if they go for it. They go for the Moonblast. We do shield out. I don't want to leave my Cresselia with like too low, and we have very much bulk on this team, so I feel like it's okay to put a shield up at that point. As they bring in a Diggersby, I go for the grass knot and then bring in my own Diggersby, because I'm thinking Lickitung can't lick it into a range where 1 Power Whip is enough, but Diggersby can quick attack it into a range where 1 Earthquake is enough. And I want to be able to overfarm and only have to go for 1 move here. They go for a move a little bit too early. It takes 9 then 8 for the Earthquake, so I knew this was only a Fire Punch, and because it's only a Fire Punch and I can live another Fire Punch, I think I can undercharge this. I'm okay with letting them get to another Fire Punch as long as they don't get to an Earthquake. That's absolutely fine. I think the energy is a lot more valuable than the damage I take from this Fire Punch, because now I'm going to come out with less health, which might actually be even better, because now the Tapu Fini can get less energy. And I come out with an Earthquake as well. So I think that was a very good undercharge. Also, I don't think there's any reason to stay in here, because I don't know what's in the back. So I might as well save the Diggersby for a sack later, as they go for the Surf on Lickitung and then swap into a Shadow Lowland Sandslash with Shadow Claws. This would be a problem if it had Powder Snow. As I said in my top teams video, Powder Snow Shadow Lowland Sandslash has a very good matchup against Lickitung. Shadow Claw Shadow Lowland Sandslash has a quite bad matchup against Lickitung, because it's simply doing nothing with the fast moves, and these licks are just adding up a lot. So even though the body slams and the power whips are resisted, this is just a good matchup. As they go for another move, this is a Duraludon, takes 665 for the Duraludon, so they should be 5 away from the next one, so we can't go for a body slam at this point. Even though it's resisted, they do have to start shielding their Lowland Sandslash. It is 4 for the next one, or 5, but they had 1 already, so we can't quite make it to a power whip, so we have to settle for the body slam if we want to make sure we can get it off. Then they swap into Tapu Fini for some reason, we farm it down, they bring back in the Alolan Sandslash, go for the Ice Punch. This will take out the Lickitung, but we have a very healthy Cresselia in the back to just Psycho Cut them all the way down, and Cresselia is an Alolan Sandslash counter confirmed. Next game, lead into Toxapex. I'm very afraid there might be like a Double or a Vigoroth or a Scrafty or something in the back when you see Toxapex in the lead, so I have to swap out eventually. They go up to the Sludge Wave and throw it immediately. It is 10-9-9 for the Sludge Wave, and we can take it on Cresselia, save the energy, and then bring in Lickitung to lure out a potential double, or like, yeah, what I mentioned before. They bring in a Swilus, making me think it might be Double Dark in the back, but why wouldn't you bring in Scrafty if you have Double Dark in the back? So I go for the first Body Slam. We can make it to another Body Slam. It takes 17 Dragon Breath for the Dark Pulse, and they do just about make it on the CMP tie as we get off this Body Slam. I probably should just overfarm before going for this, because it's not going to take them out, but it puts them into a perfect range for my Lickitung to just lick them all the way down. A little bit lucky, but we'll take it. Then they bring in the Toxapex. I'm trying to figure out, can I make it to 2 Body Slams? Otherwise I'm going to go for the Power Whip, because it does a little bit more damage if you only get to 1. Go for the first Body Slam, and we just about make it to another Body Slam. Once again, a little bit lucky, but we'll take it. I don't want to bring my Diggersby against a loaded Toxapex, because it has super effective brines. So I would rather force it to throw these Sludge Waves. And once again, we have 2 very bulky Pokemon, and I'm really not expecting them to bait against the Cresselia. So I do put up the shield, because I'm really expecting the Sludge Wave. And then if I counted correctly, it takes 10-9-9 for the Sludge Waves. I don't think they were quite at it, so I do let the next one go, thinking it's only a Brine, and it is only a Brine. We can live it. They bring in a Shadow Dragonair, and I make a mistake. they're shielding this 100% of the time. So I could very easily just go for the Grass Knot bait, but it doesn't matter because we just about, with 1 HP remaining, get to this Moonblast and grab the second shield against this Shadow Dragonair. And now they don't have any shields. They will be able to have pace to 2 Aqua Tails, but as you're gonna see, we shield the first one, and then they get to the second one, and Diggersby, even though this Aqua Tail is super effective, Diggersby is just an absolute tank. So we can take this easily, get off the Earthquake, and is this enough to take out a Shadow Dragonair? Dragonair is not the most bulky Pokemon in the world. Go for the Earthquake, and it takes it out, and that is a good game. Next game, lead into a Cresselia, another one of those very, very interesting matchups, of course. Very fast-paced, exhilarating. Yes, I know. Again, I want to see if they have something in the back which is good against normal. I thought they threw immediately, which they did. So I thought that maybe I could catch the next move on Lickitung. I really don't want them to over-farm and come out with a lot of energy on Cresselia, because then they're going to have Grass Knots for my Diggersby. So I was really hoping I could catch the move on Lickitung, but they did exactly what I didn't want them to. I mean, my opponent, why are you not listening to what I'm saying? Why do you load up on energy when I'm telling you not to do so? No, I'm joking, of course. But by loading up all that energy on Cresselia, they're going to be able to threaten my Diggersby a lot in the back. So that's a really bad situation as I put up the shield on Lickitung, because once again, I'm just not expecting anyone, Diggersby is just not baiting. It's just not baiting against the Lickitung. Don't want to spend 2 shields though, and I let them get to another Earthquake here because a Power Whip wouldn't quite be enough to take them out, so I have to let them get to the Earthquake regardless. So I would rather try to overfarm optimally instead, as we go for this Power Whip, and we can't quite farm them all the way down. I got a little bit afraid that the Fire Punch would be enough to take out Lickitung. It only does about 14%, we could have definitely lived it. So I caught it on Cresselia instead, and then they bring in a Shadow, Alolan Sandslash, and this is a very bad matchup. Even with Powder Snow, this is a very bad matchup for Cresselia. We can make it 2 Moonblast. My opponent goes for the Drill Run immediately. This is a bit of a mistake, I think, because it doesn't take me out, so I still get off the Moonblast, and now they don't get as much of a farm. If they just let me get to the Moonblast, then farmed up to as I got to the next Moonblast, and then went for the move, they would have been able to come out of this with a lot more energy. But because they did that, they don't come out with quite enough energy, so we can't get off this Body Slam right before they get to a move with Lickitung. It doesn't quite take out the Alolan Sandslash. I should have gone for the Power Whip. And then they get to the Ice Punch to take me out. Bring in the Diggersby, farm down the Alolan Sandslash. They have the Cresselia. This is actually a very neutral matchup. And with, even down the shield, this could have been okay if they didn't have all the energy. But because they have all this energy, as you can see, they can just start offloading these Grass Knots. They have to land 2, or they have to land 3 Grass Knots on Diggersby. So in an even, if they didn't have all that energy, this would have been quite fine. But because they're just going to be able to outpace so much, I'm looking at the amount of energy I have now. They have a Grass Knot loaded now. They're going to get to another Grass Knot before I get to another Fire Punch and an Earthquake. So I have to hope they make a mistake. I can either go for the Earthquake to just hope they no-shield it for some reason, or hope that they try to go for an unnecessary catch somewhere, which they just don't. They just go straight for the Grass Knot, which is the correct play. They take out Diggersby, and we lose that game. Next game, lead into a Hypno once again. It is so tempting to try and catch a Shadow Ball from this thing. So I'm just going to try and do that. And once again, my opponent won't allow it. But again, I think they make a bit of a mistake. They throw off the 6, just throw another Confusion to make it more difficult for me. I'm probably not shielding anyways, because it is very unlikely for Hypnos in the back, or Hypnos in the lead, to use Focus Blast. It's more likely when they're on the safe swap, I think. But I mean, just make it a more difficult decision for me by going up to the Focus Blast, even if you don't have it. They bring in a Wigglytuff. I don't really understand why they expended all the energy on Hypno when they have a good response to Lickitung in the back and Wigglytuff, which is a very good response to Lickitung. I would have probably saved the energy on Hypno, especially if it's running Shadow Ball. Then it wouldn't have been able to threaten my Cresselia a lot with the energy, but instead they spend all the energy. It takes 8 charms for the Wigglytuff to get to Disarming Voice, so we can't get to 2 Grass Knots before they get there, because they only did 6 charms on my Lickitung, and they shield twice, making me think that maybe they're weak to Cresselia. Also, it might be Hypno double charm, so I do want to start shielding something. They do farm up a little bit more, then they bring in the Hypno, and then they go for a move after only 3. It is 4-3-3 for the punches. They don't have the Shadow Ball available, so we can't just no-shield this. I don't want to shield a Thunder Punch from a Hypno on my Cresselia. That would just do absolutely nothing. We can go for this Moonblast. This won't take out the Hypno, but that means we can just bring in the Diggersby to farm them down, get an energy head start and a shield advantage. But then they bring in a Whiscash, and this is a very uncomfortable matchup for Diggersby because it's very bait dependent. We don't have quite enough of an energy advantage to be able to get to the 2 Earthquakes we need in order to outpace to before they get to a Mud Bomb plus a Blizzard. They won't be able to get to 2 Blizzards, so I have to make a call here. I no-shield it, and it is the Mud Bomb bait. That is very nice. They will be able to make it to a Blizzard, and this is just a free shield. As long as they don't catch an Earthquake on their Wigglytuff, we should be able to take out both of these. As long as this is a Blizzard, it is the Blizzard. Very nice. They try to catch a move on Wigglytuff. We go for the Fire Punch after loading up to 100 energy. The Whiscash is so far away from the Blizzard, so we can't just outpace to the Earthquake, and the opponent knows that, so they concede the match. Next game, lead into another Vigoroth. Very good lead for Cresselia. They go for 1 counter, and then they swap into an Alolan Marowak. And I'm thinking, there is no way. I mean, come on, you're not running Fire Blast Alolan Marowak. Like, come on now. Even if it is a Fire Blast, Lickitung is bulky. It is a big problem. They run Fire Blast, and it absolutely nukes my Lickitung. Yikes. Go for the Power Whip because it's single resisted as opposed to double resisted for the Body Slam. But because of that Fire Blast, the Alolan Marowak grabs switch advantage. We have to bring in Diggersby because I'm assuming the Alolan Marowak has a Ghost move as its second move. So I don't really want to take it on Cresselia as they bait me with the Shadow Bone as well on the Diggersby. I didn't want to take another Fire Blast. Can make it to a Fire Punch to put them very low. I don't think they would have been able to make it to another move as they bring in a Girafarig, which is absolutely fine by me. My opponent giving me back switch advantage is absolutely fine. This is where I want my Diggersby, up against the Girafarig. The Earthquake doesn't quite take out the Girafarig, so they will make it to a Psychic Fangs, which is fine by me. We farm it down. I'm expecting the Vigoroth to come back in, so we can bring in the Cresselia immediately. And they go for the Moonblast as soon as possible to potentially get an attack drop before they get off any moves. Which is exactly what we do, because the attack drop from Moonblast is apparently just proccing every time today. I'm not really sure. I was seeing a lot of them. They get to a Body Slam, doesn't really do any damage. This move I want to shield is definitely the move from Alolan Marowak as they try to go for a CMP sack. Go for the move because Alolan Marowak does win CMP, and then hope that I would go for a move at the same time so that they could take all the energy away from my Cresselia as well. But we can't just farm the Alolan Marowak down after taking or shielding the Shadow Bone, and then go for the Moonblast against the Vigoroth. My opponent doesn't even bother shielding, and that is a good game. Next game, very good lead for Cresselia into a Shadow Quagsire, because a Grass Knot is enough to one-shot it. If I were the Shadow Quagsire, I would be very tempted to try and catch a move somewhere, so I'm very hesitant. I try to throw in the middle of their mud shots every time, right before they get to another move, of course, because I really don't want this Grass Knot to be caught. We go for the Grass Knot, they shield it up, and I don't really want my Cresselia to get too low because this is an ABB team, and if in case there's like a fighter or something in the back like that, I do want to shield up the Cresselia, and it is the Stone Edge, which is very nice. Now they bring in a Zapdos of all things, a bit of a Spice Lord, this opponent I think, running Zapdos. We go for the Moonblast and then swap into Lickitung, because Lickitung can just bunch just about everything. It takes 7 and then 6 for the Thunderbolts for the Zapdos. They overfarm by 2, so they should be 4 away from the next one. And I'm thinking they only did 3, so I'm pretty sure if I counted correctly, this should only be a Drill Peck, which Lickitung can take. And now we should be able to farm them down, come out with a lot of energy to threaten the Quagsire, or whatever they have in the back. They bring back in the Quagsire, and I thought they were going to shield this. I don't know, maybe this is a bit of a silly play, silly bait, because, yeah, they know shield the Body Slam, but we can make it to another Body Slam against this Quagsire, but my opponent very nicely just lets the Quagsire go, realizing that I'm switch locked, and they can bring in their Charizard to get a huge farm down. And this is a problem. This is a very big problem. Charizard with an energy advantage against Diggersby and Cresselia, this is not what we want. But again, the quick attacks are doing a lot of damage to this Charizard, as I'm thinking they're just not gonna bait. Maybe one Fire Punch will put it into a range where we can Moonblast it with Cresselia and take them out. Or if they shield the Fire Punch, we will be able to get to the Earthquake. Both Fire Punch and Earthquake are single resisted. So even though it might seem odd to go for an Earthquake against a flying type, that is actually the move to go for. So we go for this Earthquake. It is resisted, but Charizard is very frail. So Diggersby does just take it out. Diggersby just has better matchups everywhere than you would think. Like, it's so good. Next game, lead into a Shadow Lord and Sandslash with Shadow Claws. Very good that it has Shadow Claw, because otherwise we would have been so very core broken by this thing. Bring in the Lickitung, they go for an Ice Punch. I want to threaten, like it looks like they don't have a good response to Lickitung. So by keeping hold of my energy, I'm able to threaten their swap in a lot more. The more energy I have, as they save all the energy on Shadow Lord and Sandslash. I had to go for a move eventually, but because we saved all of this energy, we will just be able to threaten the Shadow Dragonair so much. We will be able to get to 2 Body Slams before they can even get to 1 move with the Shadow Dragonair. Go for the second Body Slam, and we just take out the Shadow Dragonair. Get switch advantage, which is very nice because Diggersby has a quite good matchup against Shadow Lord and Sandslash. Although they have a lot of energy on that Shadow Lord and Sandslash. I could swap out into Cresselia here because they are switch locked, but they won't be switch locked for that long. So I don't really want my Cresselia to be switch locked as well, because then they're just gonna bring in the Shadow Lord and Sandslash at some point, and I don't want my Diggersby up against this, and I don't want my Cresselia up against the Shadow Lord and Sandslash. So I do bring in my Cresselia after letting Lickitung go down, and then we're just gonna start going for these Moonblast. We can take 1 Dragon Claw, and we should be able to get to another Moonblast before they get to another Dragon Claw. They did overfarm quite a lot, so they should be close to 2 moves, and I'm thinking, this thing is frail. I think we can quick attack it down with Diggersby. So I'm just gonna put everything on Diggersby, go for the farm down. An Ice Punch from Shadow Lord and Sandslash does about 38%, whereas a Superpower from this thing does about 57%. So these are the moves I want to shield, although they did bait me. The quick attack did go through, so this will take out the Shadow Dragonite. They do have 2 moves loaded on Shadow Lord and Sandslash, so we want to CMP tie them on the first one, because otherwise they get off both of them. But because we CMP tie them, they will only get off one. And then we will get off this Fire Punch my opponent knows. So the top left in the middle of the charge move, which is very nice. CMP tie, top left charge move. Yes, very nice. That's actually very difficult in case you haven't tried it. I do sometimes practice it just for fun. As we get a 4-1 on the last set of the day. And that is enough to get us into the promised land. Legend, Season 15 in Go Battle League. Very nice. That was the last battle for today, and overall I think this is a very good team. I did think Lickitung was a little bit of a liability as a safe swap. I've also heard other people say that they saw a few too many Double and Diggeroth and stuff like that. So I think Diggersby might be better as a safe swap, and then maybe you can use like an Auroris or a Shadow Lowland Sandslash or something like that in the back. But I think Cresselia Diggersby, very good call. Actually, Diggersby as a safe swap is so very good that it beats every fighter, including Vigoroth and Double, in the Great League Remix Cup in the Zero Shield scenario with 1 quick attacks advantage. In general, it's just an absolute monster in the Zero Shield scenario. If you liked the video or feel like you learned something, like and subscribe. A big thank you to our channel members, plural, yay! Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.